The CEO's voice cut cleanly through the low murmur of the banquet hall, smooth and confident, the kind of voice trained to command attention without ever needing to ask for it. "So," he said, lifting his glass slightly, a half-smile playing on his lips, "after closing the biggest deal of the quarter, I suppose the next logical step is for someone here to finally marry me." Laughter rippled across the room on cue. Polite, practiced laughter. Executives in tailored suits chuckled, assistants smiled a little too wide, and the clinking of glasses followed like punctuation. It was the kind of joke everyone expected from Richard Halston, CEO of Halston Dynamics, charming, wealthy, divorced once already, and very aware of the room's power imbalance. Richard enjoyed moments like this. He liked watching people laugh when he wanted them to, liked the way his words could bend the atmosphere. He scanned the room, pleased, until his eyes landed on someone who wasn't laughing. Ethan Cole stood near the back, one hand wrapped around a paper cup of soda instead of champagne. He wasn't part of the executive circle. He wasn't loud or flashy. He wore a well-fitted but clearly older suit, the kind bought years ago and carefully maintained. His dark hair was neatly trimmed, his posture straight but guarded. And his expression, neutral, almost distant. Richard raised an eyebrow, amused. "Come on," he called out, voice carrying easily. "Surely someone has a sense of humor tonight. Or should I start interviewing candidates right now?" More laughter. A few people glanced nervously at Ethan, as if sensing something brewing but not knowing what. Richard's gaze fixed on him. "What about you?" he said, pointing casually. "You look like you've got something to say." The room quieted slightly. Dozens of eyes shifted toward Ethan, curious, expectant. Being singled out by the CEO was usually a blessing, or a warning. Ethan didn't react immediately. He took a slow sip of his drink, set the cup down carefully, and looked up. "You want someone to marry you?" Ethan asked calmly. Richard grinned. "Why not? I'm told I'm quite a catch." A few nervous laughs escaped again. Ethan nodded once, as if considering it seriously. Then he spoke. "I used to think marriage was a joke too." The tone of his voice, steady, unamused, sent the first chill through the room. Conversation stopped entirely now. Even the servers paused. Richard chuckled awkwardly. "Easy there. It's just a joke." "So was mine," Ethan replied. At first. Silence pressed in, thick and uncomfortable. Richard shifted his weight. "All right," he said lightly, trying to regain control. "Care to explain?" Ethan looked around the room, at the polished shoes, the glittering dresses, the walls lined with awards celebrating innovation, profit, growth. Then he looked back at Richard. "I got married at 26, he said. "Not because it was expected. Not because it looked good. Because I loved her. Or at least, I thought love was enough." No one interrupted him. No one dared. "She was brilliant," Ethan continued. "Funny. Ambitious. The kind of woman who could light up a room without trying. When she got pregnant, she cried, not because she was scared, but because she was happy. She told me we were building something real." A few people swallowed hard. "I worked 2 jobs while finishing my degree," Ethan said. "Night shifts. Weekends. Whatever it took. I missed parties. I missed sleep. I missed being young. But I never missed a doctor's appointment. Never missed a night feeding. I thought that was what being a husband and a father meant." Richard's smile had faded now. "Our daughter was born on a Tuesday," Ethan said quietly. "She had my eyes and her mother's stubborn chin. I remember holding her and thinking, this is it. This is the most important deal of my life." The room was completely silent. 3 years later, Ethan went on, "My wife decided she wanted more. Not more love. More freedom. More excitement. More herself. She said she felt trapped. She said I'd changed." He let out a soft breath. "Maybe I had. Maybe becoming responsible isn't attractive when you confuse chaos with passion." Someone near the front shifted uncomfortably. "She left," Ethan said. Not dramatically. No screaming. Just a conversation over cold coffee. "She packed a bag and promised she'd still be around." He paused, then added, "She wasn't." Richard opened his mouth, then closed it. "I became a single dad overnight," Ethan said. No applause. No bonuses. Just daycare schedules, medical bills, and a 3-year-old who asked every night why mommy didn't come home. A woman in the audience discreetly wiped her eyes. "I learned how to braid hair from YouTube," Ethan said. "Learned how to make dinosaur pancakes. Learned how to smile when I was breaking inside, because my daughter needed to believe the world was still safe. Richard swallowed. And you know what? Ethan continued, voice firm now. I learned that commitment isn't a punchline. Marriage isn't something you joke about when you hold power over people who might laugh just to survive. The words landed like a slap. Richard cleared his throat. I didn't mean. I know, Ethan said. That's the problem. A heavy pause followed. You see, Ethan went on, when you joke about marriage, you joke about something people lose sleep over. Something they sacrifice for. Something that can break you and still expect you to show up at work the next morning like nothing happened. He looked directly at Richard now. Some of us don't get to laugh about it. Richard shifted, clearly unsettled. So, he said carefully, what's your point? Ethan picked up his cup again, hands steady. My point, he said, is that if you ever decide to marry again, don't do it because it sounds clever in a room full of people who answer to you. Do it because you're ready to be inconveniently loyal. Because you're ready to be exhausted. Because you're ready to put someone else first even when no one is watching. The room felt frozen in time. And if you're not, Ethan added, then don't joke about it. Some of us are still living with the consequences of people who did. Richard stood very still. For the first time that evening, he looked unsure of himself. I didn't know, he said quietly. Ethan nodded. Most people don't ask. He turned slightly, ready to step away, when Richard spoke again. Wait, Richard said. Ethan, right. Ethan stopped. You work in systems analysis, Richard said. You're one of the quiet ones. Always leave on time. Ethan smiled faintly. Daycare closes at 6. A few people let out small, strained laughs. Richard hesitated, then said, your daughter, how old is she now? 8, Ethan replied. Loves astronomy. Wants to be an astronaut. Richard nodded slowly. I have a son, he said. College age. I wasn't around much when he was little. Ethan met his eyes. You can't get that time back, he said gently. But you can decide what kind of man he remembers now. The words weren't cruel. They were honest. That somehow made them heavier. Richard set his glass down. I owe you an apology, he said, loud enough for the room to hear. That joke was careless. No one spoke. And thank you, Richard added, voice lower, for reminding me that leadership doesn't give me the right to be thoughtless. Ethan inclined his head slightly. Apology accepted. For a moment, it seemed like the evening might simply end there, awkward and unresolved. Then, slowly, someone began to clap. One person. Then another. Not loud. Not enthusiastic. Respectful. The applause grew, not for Richard, but for Ethan. Ethan felt a strange warmth spread through his chest. Not pride, something quieter. Validation, maybe. Later that night, as people filtered out, Richard approached Ethan again, this time without an audience. Would you have dinner with me sometime? Richard asked. Not for business. I think I have a lot to learn. Ethan considered it. Then he nodded. As long as we're done by 6. Richard smiled, genuine this time. Deal. Ethan walked out of the building into the cool night air, pulling out his phone. A message blinked on the screen. Dad, don't forget. We're building the solar system tonight. Crescent moon sparkles. He smiled fully now. Inside that room, power had paused. Ego had quieted. And for once, a careless joke had met a truth heavy enough to stop everything cold.